That's an attention getter.
Smokey and the Bandit looks like one big laugh-filled joyride, but behind the high-speed stunts and southern charm lie stories you'd never believe. Fact 1.
Don't go to eat, and don't play with yourself.
The original screenplay for Smokey and the Bandit didn't take months or even weeks to write. It was done in 5 days flat. Director Hal Needham, a legendary stuntman making his directorial debut, came up with the idea while hanging out with Bert Reynolds. Needham was living in Reynolds' guest house at the time. He noticed how popular Coors beer was and how it couldn't legally be sold east of the Mississippi. That became the seed for the story, smuggling Coors across state lines. Needham quickly drafted a treatment and pitched it directly to Reynolds. Reynolds signed on instantly. His star power guaranteed studio interest. From there, Needham and co-writer Robert L. Levy fleshed out the story in less than a week. The script was more of a roadmap, with a lot of lines improvised on set. Reynolds said in interviews that half the dialogue was made up in the car. The fast pace of development reflected the film's chaotic, off-the-cuff energy. Needham, who had never directed before, relied on instincts and humor. What started as a beer smuggling gag turned into a blockbuster hit. Despite the rushed timeline, the film felt effortless. And that's probably because the people making it weren't trying to make art. They were trying to have fun. That spontaneity gave the film its unique tone. The fact that it was written in 5 days is outrageous. But that speed gave it its spark, and audiences loved every mile of it. Fact 2.
What happened, Daddy?
Get back in that goddamn car.
Jackie Gleason, who played the iconic Sheriff Buford T. Justice, didn't stick to the script. In fact, most of his lines were improvised. Gleason was a veteran comedian with perfect timing, and Hal Needham gave him room to run wild. He created Buford's voice, mannerisms, and insults on the fly. Lines like "sumbitch" and "what we're dealing with here is a complete lack of respect for the law" were never written. They just came out. The crew often struggled not to laugh during his takes. Gleason insisted on having minimal direction and said he worked best with freedom. His chemistry with Mike Henry Jr. came from their real friendship and shared sense of timing. Even the famous scene where he orders a Diablo sandwich and Dr. Pepper was improvised and filmed in one take. Hal Needham later said, "You couldn't write what Jackie said, and you wouldn't want to." Gleason reportedly modeled the character after a real Florida highway patrolman he once met. That authenticity gave Buford depth beyond the laughs. No one else could have played the part like Gleason. He was unpredictable, hilarious, and slightly dangerous. Exactly what the film needed. His performance became one of the most quoted in comedy history. Fans still repeat his lines today, 45 years later. He didn't just play Buford, he became him. And he never once asked for a script change because there was no script to follow. Fact 3.
Well, just send me the bill, Foxy lady. I'll catch you on the flip side, darling. I'm too pooped to pop.
Even though Smokey and the Bandit became one of Bert Reynolds' signature roles, he initially turned it down. At the time, he was already one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, thanks to Deliverance and The Longest Yard. He didn't see the appeal of a movie about beer smuggling and car chases. But director Hal Needham, Reynolds' longtime friend and stunt double, wouldn't let it go. Needham brought a rough draft of the script and said, "Trust me, it'll be fun." Reynolds finally agreed, mostly as a favor. He later admitted that he had no idea it would be such a massive hit. The film went on to gross over $120 million, the second highest of 1977, behind Star Wars. It made Reynolds the top box office draw for 5 straight years. He said it was the most enjoyable filming experience of his life. Much of the dialogue and blocking was improvised, which suited his loose, confident style. Reynolds loved working with Gleason and gave him plenty of space to ad-lib. Sally Field, who played Carrie, was Reynolds' real-life girlfriend at the time. That chemistry added authenticity to their scenes. Reynolds later called turning down a sequel idea one of his biggest career regrets. Still, he credited Smokey with making him a household name. He had a blast making it, and it showed. Sometimes all it takes is a nudge from a friend and a Trans Am. Fact 4. The black and gold Pontiac Trans Am driven by Bandit wasn't just a prop. It became a pop culture icon. Before the movie, Trans Am sales were stagnant. After the film's release, demand exploded. Pontiac reported a 30% jump in sales the following year. Dealers couldn't keep the cars on the lot. Kids had posters of it on their walls and grown men lined up to drive like the Bandit. The car in the movie was a 1977 model, but it actually used a 1976 body with 1977 front-end styling. Pontiac couldn't deliver the 70s in time for filming, so the production team improvised. The crew went through several cars during filming. Most were damaged or destroyed in stunts. Only one car survived the shoot in drivable condition. That car was later restored and sold at auction. It remains one of the most famous movie cars of all time. Hal Needham received a Trans Am as a gift from Pontiac after the film's success. Reynolds said he loved the car so much he bought one for himself. The car had no special modifications. It was all visual. Its growl, stance, and color scheme made it unforgettable. No CGI, no tricks, just raw attitude. The Trans Am didn't just carry the Bandit, it became part of his identity, and it helped sell thousands of cars without saying a word. Fact 5.
We are a bride in search of a wedding.
No, there is a wedding in search of a bride.
Casting Sally Field wasn't an easy win. At the time, she was best known for light comedy roles like Gidget and The Flying Nun. Studio execs didn't think she had the right look for a romantic lead. They told Reynolds they wanted someone prettier. Reynolds fought back, insisting Field was the perfect mix of funny, smart, and relatable. He said she was the only actress who could match me line for line. Eventually, the studio relented, and Field stole every scene she was in. She brought depth to a movie that could have been pure fluff. Her chemistry with Reynolds was electric because it was real. They were dating off-screen, which added to the natural rhythm of their banter. Field later said she was grateful Reynolds stood up for her. The role changed how Hollywood saw her, and she went on to win 2 Oscars. Field improvised several moments in the movie, especially during car scenes. She said Reynolds gave her the confidence to take risks on camera. The Runaway Bride story was expanded after she was cast to give her more to work with. It turned out to be the perfect balance of chaos and charm. Without her, the film would have lost a big part of its heart. And for Field, it proved she could hang with the boys and steal the spotlight while doing it. Fact 6. Hal Needham wanted the car chases to feel real, and he didn't wait around for red tape. Many of the most iconic driving scenes were filmed guerrilla style. That means no permits, no road closures, and no legal clearance. The crew would scout a location, set up quickly, shoot, and leave before police could shut them down. This was especially true for scenes on highways and rural roads. Needham, being a former stuntman, coordinated the driving himself. He used walkie-talkies and spotters to monitor traffic and keep the crew safe. Reynolds drove some scenes himself, though professionals handled the riskier moves. The lack of formal approval added an edge of danger to the entire production. Accidents were minimal, but tension was always high. One stunt, jumping the Trans Am over a broken bridge, required precise speed and timing. The car was destroyed on landing, but the shot made the final cut. Needham called it the most satisfying crash I've ever filmed. Law enforcement occasionally showed up, only to be won over by the charm of the cast. It was a miracle no one got seriously hurt, and the authenticity of the chases gave the film its adrenaline. They didn't wait for permission, they just hit the gas. Fact 7.
Eastbound and down, loaded up and trucking. Are we gonna do what they say can't be done?
Before becoming Cletus Snowman, Snow in the film, Jerry Reed was only supposed to provide music. Hal Needham asked him to write the theme song, and Reed came up with Eastbound and Down almost overnight. When casting fell through for the role of the truck-driving sidekick, Needham looked at Reed and said, "You're the guy." Reed had acted before, but this was his first major comedic role. His easygoing charm and chemistry with Reynolds made the character unforgettable. Reed ended up improvising many of his lines and added real CB lingo to the script. He drove his own truck in several scenes and even performed minor stunts. The dog who played Fred was also Reed's idea. He thought Snowman needed a loyal sidekick. Fred became a fan favorite and appeared in promotional materials. Reed re-recorded Eastbound and Down after the film's success, and it became a country radio hit. The song climbed the Billboard charts and remains one of the most recognizable film themes of the 70s. It was later used in commercials, car shows, and even political rallies. Reed became a country music icon, but fans never let him forget Snowman. He said the film changed his life and gave him a new audience. Reed toured with a Smokey-themed truck and performed the song at every concert. Needham said casting him was the smartest accident he ever made. Reed wasn't just comic relief. He was the heart of the road trip. He embodied the spirit of the open highway, and he did it all while strumming a guitar and hauling cores. Fact 8. When Smokey and the Bandit premiered in 1977, expectations were modest. Paramount didn't believe it would perform well outside the South. The film had a small budget, just $4.3 million, and minimal marketing. But word of mouth turned it into a national sensation. It opened the same year as Star Wars and finished as the second highest grossing film of 1977. It earned more than $126 million in the US alone. Drive-in theaters saw record attendance, especially in rural areas. Fans returned multiple times to memorize the jokes and chase scenes. The movie became a cultural touchstone, even though critics gave it mixed reviews. Roger Ebert gave it 2 stars, but audiences didn't care. Hal Needham said the studio had to scramble to print more copies of the film reels. TV networks started calling immediately for broadcast rights. The unexpected success launched a wave of car chase comedies in the late 70s and early 80s. It also helped solidify Bert Reynolds as the #1 box office star of the decade. The studio greenlit sequels even before the first film left theaters. Nobody saw it coming, not even the people who made it. The film's success proved you didn't need lasers and spaceships to pack theaters. Just charisma, horsepower, and a little law-breaking, and some cold cores. Fact 9. Citizens Band. CB radios were already popular with truckers before the movie. But after Smokey and the Bandit, sales exploded nationwide. The film turned CB lingo into everyday slang. 10-4, breaker breaker, and put the pedal to the metal. Children started asking for CB sets for Christmas. Radio shops popped up in strip malls across the country. The FCC even had to release public guidelines to manage frequency interference. CB radios became part of the road trip experience for families and weekend drivers. Truck stop culture was romanticized for the first time on a national level. The movie made Smokey a household term for police officers. Even restaurants started offering CB specials and trucker-themed promotions. It wasn't just a movie, it was a CB revolution. Jerry Reed and Bert Reynolds helped bring the trucker lifestyle mainstream. People used CB handles and joined amateur clubs to mimic the Bandit. Car manufacturers took notice and began installing CB radios as factory options. Needham himself said he never imagined a movie would impact communications law. Truckers reported getting more friendly honks and Bandit references for years. CB slang was suddenly part of pop culture vocabulary. The film didn't just sell tickets. It changed the way Americans talked on the road. Breaker 19, you still with me? Fact 10. One of the last people you'd expect to work on a redneck car comedy? Alfred Hitchcock's editor, Walter Hanneman. Hanneman had worked on Family Plot, Hitchcock's final film, and brought a sharp sense of timing to Needham's wild footage. Needham, being new to directing, shot hours of chase scenes and comic bits without a strict shooting script. The editing room became the real place where Smokey came together. Hanneman tightened the pacing and restructured scenes to build rhythm and momentum. He was particularly instrumental in shaping the film's famous stinger-style transitions between jokes and action. The editing style has since been emulated in dozens of comedies. Hanuman didn't mind going from Hitchcock to Hot Rods. He saw the similarities in tension and release. Reynolds later said the editor saved the movie by making it feel faster than it really was. Needham gave him full freedom, saying, "He knew what to cut. I just knew what to blow up." The final film has a distinct feel, loose, yet razor sharp, and much of that came from an old-school film veteran with an eye for comedy. It's a perfect example of highbrow meets lowbrow, and proof that the right edit can turn a rough road into a smooth ride. The Bandit got all the glory, but Hitchcock's guy made sure he never hit a red light. Talk about an unexpected co-pilot. Bonus fact. After filming wrapped, Bert Reynolds gave one of the Smokey and the Bandit Trans Ams to Hal Needham, the director and his longtime stunt double. Needham kept the car for years, treating it as a personal trophy and a piece of movie history. The Trans Am wasn't just a gift. It symbolized their friendship and the success of their wild idea. For a while, it sat in his garage and was occasionally driven to car shows. But over time, the car's location became a mystery. After Needham's passing in 2013, it resurfaced and was authenticated by experts. In 2016, the car went up for auction and sold for over $500,000. Reynolds himself attended the auction and gave it his personal blessing. He signed the dashboard and shared stories from the set. The car was fully restored and still bore minor scratches from filming. Reynolds said it was like seeing an old friend. The vehicle had no CGI tricks, just raw horsepower and good design. Its survival is rare considering how many cars were wrecked during production. That particular Trans Am was never used for jumps, which helped it stay intact. Today it sits in a private collection, occasionally brought out for display. Collectors still consider it one of the most iconic movie cars ever built. It's not just a piece of memorabilia, it's a legend with a VIN number. And it all started with Bert handing over the keys to his best friend. Sometimes the best souvenirs don't fit in a box, they come with horsepower.